Welcome back, Phil.
Good morning.
How are you, buddy?
I'm great. I'm so sorry to be so energetic this morning. I'm hopped up. I got about 6 cups of black coffee in me. I'm just ready to fire. Let's go.
All right, good. Because I have an assignment for you.
Let's go.
For like an old timer like me. Okay, so you're involved with crypto now through the Osprey fund, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I have always had a tough time really understanding blockchain and how this is going to be the new wave of the future. I understand how it can fluctuate in value, etc. But for say, someone from my generation who this all seems like, what is it? It's, it's not a leather wallet you put it in, it's a computer clip that you store it in. Why don't you explain what to a senior citizen why they should consider something like the Osprey funds, which it was launched at a great time near the highs, right? So you probably had a lot of good interest, right, Phil?
Well, thanks so much, Dale, first off. And I think that's a great question because anytime there's new technology, anytime there's anything new, we as humans have some difficulty, processing it. What is this? What is this new thing, right? And
there's so many right now, Phil. I mean, you have SPACs, NFTs. I still don't know what they are and why they're worth anything. It's like Toffler wrote in the 80s, Future Shock. There's so many different instruments nowadays. It's almost overwhelming.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. I just this past Thursday published a piece called "How to Deal with the Noise" on the Osprey Fund's newsletter, and basically, there's so much noise out there, and it's endless. And as a matter of fact, I created a pie chart that was like 99% noise, 1%. If you go to newsletter on there, I see you searching around. If you go to newsletters, you could see that chart. 99% noise. Just scroll down a little bit to that article. 99% noise, 1% signal, right? So there's a ton of noise out there. And so in addition to that, there's individual expertise. Right. So there's all of this noise. We are being bombarded, whether it's television's got 800 channels now, whether it's the internet, there's 8 million sources out there, or whether it is social media. Don't even get me started about the level of noise there. Yeah. There is, we are all being bombarded. In addition to that, as individuals, we all have our own experiences and we all have things that we're most interested in and we're experts in and we don't know much about. And so I would recommend to everybody listening that, you tailor your risk profile accordingly. Like, so if you want to get involved with crypto, but you're really much more adept at, trading,
legacy markets. Legacy markets.
Yeah, exactly. So you probably want to allocate less and just take a taste and understand, that's a great way. You take you get a small position, and it's a great way to understand. What you're asking me, though, to go back to your original question, because I don't want to lose sight of that because it was a good one. What is crypto? Like, what's going on here for all of us who are not coming up with it, for all of us who are not developers and in the middle of it? Really what's going on here is that there is a potential to decentralize value, to decentralize currency, to decentralize stores of value, to decentralize software, and to decentralize governance. And it's a very, very powerful concept to those who get it, because organizations, whether you are a large company, right, whether you're Google, whether you are a government, the U.S. or any other government, you have your own interests. And so anything that you develop, whether it's a currency, whether it's a piece of software, and the lines are blurring between what's software and what is a store of value, just to get that out of the way. But if you are a centralized organization and you are building these things or printing these things, you have an interest in your mind. And so you own whatever you're creating. And so you can make rules and then change the rules. You could decide to print a whole bunch more money. You could decide to change the terms of agreement of any software that you've put out there. And you see companies like Facebook do that, and Apple and Twitter, where they change the rules to the game in the middle of the game. Or if you're a government, they decide to print more money. And what does that do to the money that you're holding over a long period of time? What does that do in South America? What does that potentially do here? I'm not a harbinger of doom. I don't think that there's going to be a devalue. That's not where I'm going here. I'm just saying that when there's a centralized system, whoever is central can change the rules. If it's decentralized, the rules are written in code and everybody knows them and everybody's playing by the same rules. And so there is a trustlessness. You don't need to trust any organization. And there's a leveling of the playing field. So at one level, that's what's happening here. And when you sort of get that wrap your head around that, a whole bunch of other things come about out of that. Well, now you can, that affect so many different fields, not just currency, but they affect law, they affect real estate, they affect property, they affect many insurance and other financial services. If you can write into a decentralized network, right, a blockchain, you can write code, you can write rules for anything. Let's say insurance contracts, so that everybody knows those rules and everybody's on the same footing. You could do a couple things there. First of all, you know what you're getting to, you know what you're getting into, and the field is fair. And second of all, it opens it up to everybody, so that opportunity, more people can get involved. And one place where you're seeing that is in parts of the world where currencies have been devalued. You're seeing, parts of Africa, parts of South America, you're seeing people get involved with crypto to, go out, do it on their own, buy whatever they buy.
Yeah, wasn't that one of the, humanitarian aspects of it was to help people that were debanked, right? They didn't have access to standard banking accounts like most of us do in developed nations. And this was a way for them to enter the global financial system with Bitcoin without a bank account.
The really cool thing, yes, that's exactly correct. And also maintain value of whatever value that they're holding and have earned and trying to store. If your currency is being debased and inflation is going crazy in whatever nation you're in, what do you do? I mean, now there is a solution to that, and it's hard for
people used to buy gold. That's what they used to do.
Well, and they still do.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that gold. I'm not an extremist in any regard.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that gold has lost its purpose because of Bitcoin. Not even at all. There's a place that there's multiple factors, and everybody has their own interests in play. And so holding gold may be very practical for you. Holding Bitcoin may be very practical for you. Holding Ethereum or Polkadot or some of these other cryptos that are just now emerging and becoming much more well known, and with good reason. And so, potentially, we're watching the financial system get rebuilt in a way that is less unfair to people that don't necessarily have the, that can't create a lobby in DC. The unbanked, as you say, but not even that extreme. Doesn't even have to be the unbanked. I mean, there's plenty of people out there who are well banked who don't have a say in
that have a lot of bank.
What's that?
That also have a lot of bank.
That have a lot of bank.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because people buy for different reasons. I find this interesting. This article. Did you write this, Phil? Bitcoin and the correlation illusion.
Yes.
Tell us about that, because you were describing it as a hedge against debasement of currency. At the beginning, it was really going to be like a negative corollary investment where it might do well when everything else isn't, but it seems to be really kind of going with risk on. Loose money, everything's going up. You have this. Like I was saying, I have future shock. Now you're talking about digital art, it's breaking out. So why don't you tell us what the illusion is that a lot of people believe about Bitcoin and how it's correlated or isn't correlated to anything?
Well, this goes back to the noise conversation that we were having before. So if we as humans love to look for patterns.
Right.
We are pattern. That's how we make meaning of the world. Okay. So if there's even a hint of a pattern, we're going to find it. And very often that's what we do, right? It's a heuristic. And if there is no pattern, very often we are going to find it. In addition to that, we have a tendency to be short-sighted. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. If you are, if you're a short-term trader and you're using, behavioral signals or technical signals, more power to you. And, as a matter of fact, over shorter periods of time, there might be more predictability. And so, you don't have to worry as much about chaos theory, right? It's a lot easier to predict something that's going to happen in 5 minutes than it is to predict something that's going to happen in 5 years. Correct. So no problem there. Yeah. But if you back up the lens and you are looking at large patterns and you are looking at large trends, very often we are right now seeing relationships that aren't necessarily there. And I think that the example that you give is actually a perfect example. Over a shorter period of time, whether that is during that swoon last year in March.
COVID, yeah.
The COVID swoon is really a classic example. Or whether it's more recently, where we're seeing, sort of the FANG stocks languish and Bitcoin languish. People will look at that and go, hey, this is, Bitcoin is a risk-on asset, and it's behaving like a risk-on asset. But if you back up the lens and you look at it in a much larger context over 5 years or 10 years, then that shorter term correlation really breaks down. And you don't see that relationship. As a matter of fact, what you see is a relationship where risk on equities are pretty much, going nowhere in comparison to the path that Bitcoin is taking. A more interesting possible pattern that we're seeing right now, and that I want to throw out at you guys, and this one is sort of more that you're seeing. This is something that's in effect presently, is that you're seeing the value and price, the market cap and the price of Bitcoin relative to some of the most prominent altcoins change very relevantly. And so what you're seeing is relative outperformance in the more prominent alternative coins relative to Bitcoin. And so we're seeing that play out right in the moment. So if you look
Ethereum, at even though Bitcoin peaked, Ethereum kept running.
Bitcoin, exactly. So if you look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and you guys are already the experts at sort of looking at to Forex participants, everything is a relative trade, right? I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much. And if you look at like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Bitcoin Polkadot, you're going to see, or others, or a basket of some of these altcoins, some of the most prominent ones, you're going to see the alts outperforming in a very significant way right now. And there's a thing called alt season, that is a sort of a cyclical thing that we see. I was talking to Jeff Hirsch the other day, and I was asking him about seasonality of crypto, and he was saying, well, it's so young that it's a little bit hard for me to identify seasonal trends. But if you talk to the crypto people, so he's more of a.
But there are things like Ghost Month in August where that's when the Asians kind of pull back from investing.
Right.
And I've learned from other people I've interviewed about Bitcoin, and I found Ghost Month pretty interesting. Okay, so seasonality, you know what? How is it going to be used practically? Because, the value, say, for example, you went to a grocery store, Phil, and you wanted to pay in Bitcoin, and it appreciated 8% by the time you walked in the door and you're ready to pay, or depreciated 8%. Or it would be hard to price anything in Bitcoins and pay for it that way. I'm trying to understand how it could be used because of the volatility of price. How can it be used commercially for exchanging goods and services with that kind of price changes that happen daily like that?
Well, what's going on right now is that this promise of decentralized finance is being built right in front of our eyes, and it's very difficult to sort of grasp it because it's complicated, because there is volatility. So it's where there's volatility, there's high emotional valence, or emotional volatility, a company's price volatility. But what is happening right now at this moment is that some of the smartest people out there, are rebuilding, or attempting to. I mean, don't get me wrong, this could be a total failure. There's risk here. I'm not saying there's no risk, but some of the smartest people in the world, guys like Vitalik and Gavin Wood with Polkadot, are attempting to rebuild the financial system in a decentralized manner. And so what you do there, and that's what I was talking about before, and what happens there is you do a couple things. Number one, you move, and this is a great quote by Chris Dixon. And if you're interested, for any listener out there, if you're interested, I would really highly recommend that you find Chris Dixon's writing. Don't just stick with what I'm writing at Osprey. Go find Chris Dixon. Go find him on podcasts. He did a podcast recently with Patrick O'Shaughnessy. Go find that and listen to it. He has a line talking about Web3, talking about sort of this emergence of the next phase of the web. We had the first phase of the web that was sort of the basics of hyperlinking and e-commerce. Then we had sort of the second phase of the web, which was ubiquitous publishing and cloud and social. Now we're moving into this third phase, Web3, of decentralization. And his view is that, his quip is that we're moving from a world of don't be evil to a world of can't be evil, because of the way that these contracts really, you asked me before what blockchain was, right? It's many things, and it's hard for me to describe. And I'm not going to be able to do it at this moment, just on your podcast. But one of the things that it is that it's it's software written into a network of multiple computers. And so that software is decentralized. Nobody owns it. There's no Google. Remember Google's tagline was "Don't be evil." Well, as they had to compromise as you grow a business, you can't really you can't really never be evil. You have to do some things that are kind of a little bit, not saying necessarily evil, but in your own best interest and not in the best interest of your users necessarily.
You mean the whole socially conscious movement in investing?
Well, it's more than socially conscious. It'll affect everything. It'll affect insurance, right? So there'll be contracts written into code that you can enter if you're looking for insurance that goes right by any large organization that is right now creating the insurance for you. You know, when you go to an insurance company or you go to a bank to borrow money, it's like a casino, right? You know, anytime you play anything in a casino, you know who has the better odds. You know, the casino's there and making money, and you know you're placing a bet. No matter how smart of a gambler you are, unless maybe you're playing poker, it's another story. But if you're,
the house has the edge.
The house always has the edge, right? And if you're a card counter, they're going to fine you and kick you out, so you can't even get the edge there, right? But if you're pulling a one-armed bandit, that slot machine has the edge over you. But so the insurance companies have the edge. They're a business. They're making money. It's not necessarily evil. It's just that that's the way they do things. If you're a bank and you're lending money, well, you know how that goes too. I mean, there's a spread between what they're getting the money for and what they're lending it for. But if there's no middleman and that contract is laid out and everybody can understand it, and there's borrowers out there and there's lenders out there, and there's, software that's matching that and making that market, that not only increases clarity, but it also decreases the friction of the transaction that you're making.
And cost, because there is no middleman.
There's no middleman.
There's no commission that has to be paid out.
There's no commission that has to be paid out. So that is only one. This can affect this is only one example. Insurance and lending are only one or two examples of
people are buying homes with Bitcoin.
What's that?
People are buying homes with Bitcoin.
People are buying homes. There's NFTs for real estate, and really the promise, or part of the promise there, is really kind of similar, that we'll be able to qualify ownership of property without having to have lawyers and titles and deeds that are centralized, where all of that can be written into a token, written into code that is shared in a trustless network, and everybody knows who owns what without there being any need for somebody who's taking a portion to write the contract, to hold it, to hold any of the documents and so forth. And that's really, so it will affect property, it'll affect law, it'll affect currency, as we're already seeing even though it's, and one other thing, I just want to get out there, and then I'll stop talking. This is very early, and it's a jambalaya. It's very messy. It's a stew. And so there's a lot of moving parts, and there's going to be a lot of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And there's going to be a lot of disagreement, and there's going to be a lot of competition, and it's going to be messy for a while.
A lot of regulation.
There'll be regulation. Even the dance between regulation and these entities, these, what are they, right? Is it a technology? Is it an asset? Is it a commodity? Is it software?
I don't know.
We haven't even fully defined what the stuff is yet.
Yeah, I know.
It's wild. I'll tell you something. It's a pleasure for me just to be involved with it, because it's so interesting. And I certainly don't have all the answers, but it's so interesting to me to just be learning so much about this whole new area. And it's really wild in that way.
And here's a way for all the listeners watching live and that see the video later to go to Osprey Funds and subscribe to their free newsletter as part of the educational process of beginning to understand blockchain if you're not there. right, Phil?
Dale, thank you so much
No,
for that plug.
y-
It's a pleasure to come on here anytime, anyway.
yeah.
But for you to give me a little plug, I really
Well, let me
appreciate it.
give you another plug, Phil. And I subscribed to this, and I also subscribe to your other passion, Prime Cuts newsletter. Okay, where Phil, who doesn't claim to be an expert in health, tells you what he's doing with all the research he's doing. Because you know what, Phil, I've looked the Grim Reaper in the eye, and you could have $10 million in the bank, and if you're not healthy, what that old curse, may you make $1 million and give it all to the doctors. That your health is so important as a trader. Anything you do, you have to be in a peak performing state. And this is a great newsletter that Phil writes about what he's doing, his ideas on exercise and diet. And, I think this is something that people should be interested in too. And you could find this on Phil's Twitter handle. So you could get to the Osprey funds and you could get to Prime Cuts. And yeah, Phil is not a vegan on this diet, but I know that I could tell just by your writings. And you came in and you said, you're pumped, you have energy, and the energy just isn't caffeine. It's your lifestyle that you've adopted. So what was the big change for you? Were you always this way, Phil? Real diet oriented, et cetera?
No, I was very healthy when I was young, and I was an athlete,
Yeah.
and then as I got older, in college and getting out there in the work world and the rat race, I gained some weight, probably drank a little too much.
Yeah.
Didn't really
Noshed.
watch what I ate, didn't
Did you eat a lot of
exercise regularly.
halava?
What's that?
Eat a lot of halava?
Yeah. So, my mom loved, that's really funny that you say that. Halava, that was a delicacy
Yeah.
to my mom, and that side of the family. And then
Yeah.
recently I was talking about it with my wife, and it was a delicacy for her grandmother
Oh, I loved it.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And, that was something that was a treat growing
Yeah.
up. My mom grew up in Baltimore, way back in the day, in the 40s and 50s. And that was a delicacy for them. I don't usually get it now. My diet now is crazy relative to what's considered normal. I think of it as very normal. I don't eat a lot of processed foods. I don't eat a lot of sweets. I don't eat a lot of sugar. I don't even eat a lot of fruit. I eat a lot of protein, fish, meat. And the point of Prime Cuts is this: I'm never going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? I'm in great shape. And I was only half joking about the coffee earlier. You're right. I wake up in the morning and I have a lot of energy and I'm ready to go. I can fit into jeans that I wore, 30, 35 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm never going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger. And most people are not. But this idea of just getting healthy, the thing that turned, to go back to your question, the thing that really flipped the light switch on for me was having kids. Because here I was with two kids, 10 years ago, two kids aged, 5 and 3. And I'm chasing them around and I'm like, oh my God, man, I'm in my early 40s here and I'm tired. And I want to be able to chase these guys around for a long time. And then when they have kids, I want to be able to chase them around. So that was the impetus. And this idea, it's really not that difficult. The idea is to eat really nutritious food, to eat eggs, to eat chicken, to eat fish, and to make that your primary source of nutrition. And then to move your body almost every day. Walking is incredible. Doing some resistance. You don't have to be a musclehead and go to the gym. Yeah. You could just do push-ups and pull-ups, or just push-ups and leg raises is incredible. Or squats, body squats is incredible. And really just the consistency of just doing that over and making that a lifestyle instead of a diet or instead of like a task that you do. It's just part of your life. So that is, that's that whole side of me, separate from the whole crypto thing. One other last thing about the newsletter. We're going to be bringing out some research over the next couple of weeks. And we're going to start doing more and more of that. That's very practical. And the way that we're thinking about Osprey is that we're really selecting the types of funds that we're going to be launching based on research, so not just pushing them out based on popularity or anything else, based on us selecting them and looking into them. And so we're going to have a piece coming out in the next couple of weeks. In addition to that, when we launch new trusts, when we launch new funds, we're going to be publicizing those. So I think that's where, aside from my behavioral economic scribblings about crypto, I think that's really where the value lies here.
Okay, so everyone subscribe to that. And, if you want Phil's ideas on health and exercise, go to Twitter and sign up for that newsletter. Thank you so much, Phil. I still don't understand blockchain, but thanks for attempting it. And I know
next time you're going to keep, next time I'm going to put blinders on like a horse so that the only thing we could talk about is blockchain, and I won't go far afield 5 times over.
It's a deal. Thank you, Phil.
Thanks so much, Dale. I can't thank you enough, brother.
All right. So everyone, Phil Pearlman, follow him on Twitter at P Pearlman, and then you could just go to Osprey Funds and Prime Cuts and sign up for his newsletters. That's going to be a wrap for us, everyone. You could join the team in 12 minutes for Morning Edge. Remember, don't just count your cryptos, count your blessings. And we'll see everyone tomorrow. Adios.
Adios.
Thank you, Phil.